Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of WGC Fits. Here with Ian Hardesty, I'm Trent Maxwell. We're going to talk about the new Callaway Raw Wedge, MD Raw. Just launched a couple weeks ago, so we're going to have Ian go through a little bit of a wedge fitting, but we're going to talk about some of the different options. So it's a little different than the wedge fitting that we actually did with Sam a little while ago. So whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Now these are the demo clubs, right? Not this one,
not.
Well, the other ones are, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I noticed they have a little rust spots or wear spots already.
Correct. So what we're talking about here is, so the new Jaws Raw wedge, the face itself is raw. So why is the face itself raw? A lot of the better players or tour professionals have, for lots of years on tour, had completely raw wedges, 100% raw wedges. Why? Because if you grind down a different spot on the wedge, it's going to rust in that area. So a couple different reasons why. So one would be that. So if I'm making grindings towards a wedge for a better player or a wedge player on tour, then it's going to rust in that area only. So this brings me to why a raw face. Raw doesn't glare. So both of the new wedge options, which are the satin chrome and the black plasma, I believe is the official name of it, they will rust over time. The chrome one will rust faster, or the satin one will rust faster, or just appear faster. Why? Because it's a satin wedge versus the black. The black kind of hides it a little bit more. Yeah. Plus the fact that it's been out here, so it might oxidize a little faster.
It's been hit a few times.
So people, I've already heard the comment a few times. Oh man, this wedge is already beat up. Well, not really. I mean, it's designed to rust. So the second reason of that is some people believe that raw face will add a little bit of grit to it and add just a little bit more spin to it. Whether that's factual or not, I mean, certain companies do have raw wedges. I'm not going to debate whether or not it actually does it. I'm not a scientist or an engineer or anything like that. So I like it just because, it's a wedge. It's going to get beat up anyway. Especially hitting this shot. You're hitting this golf club out of bunkers that have rocks in them. It's going to get beat up. So I'm pretty anal about my golf clubs. I'm really not anal about my wedges, other than the fact that I like certain things on a wedge. I like it to look raw. I know that the average person doesn't. But so what Callaway did with this wedge, and I know TaylorMade did it with their MD, their wedge as well, is they left the back so the back does not rust, or the sole does not rust, just the face rusts. So that way you're getting the effects where you need it and not so much on other parts of the wedge.
So does the rust affect then the strike on the ball?
No.
Because it feels good.
Like I said, it can add a little bit of grittiness to it, and in turn maybe it adds a little bit extra spin to it. I mean, I know the Jaws Raw, the grooves are pretty impressive. I mean, this is definitely a spin machine. So that's in early testing, initial feedback from players and even myself. I mean, it
spins.
It spins.
What's typical for a 60?
Probably looking for over 10,000 RPMs.
On a full shot, not
on
like
a
that
full
little
shot,
half shot.
Correct. On a half shot, it's going to spin a little less. So one of the new things with the Callaway wedge is they added a new grind, the Z grind. So Z in Callaway parlance replaced the C grind. The C grind was one of their least bounce options in their wedge. Z is only available in 60, 58. I don't know.
So it's only an 8 degree?
It's only an 8 degree.
Because I normally play a 4 in a 60, which is even like no bounce.
Correct. Correct. So what we're going to do, we're going to have you hit yours.
Okay.
And we're going to do a little
bounce test.
Bounce test. Okay. Obviously off of grass is the very best way to do this. But if you can't, just using a little board, using some lye tape will give you a pretty good idea of what's going on. So we're gonna hit a shot towards that red flag. Okay. And I don't want you to hit this full. So I really only want you to hit this about 40 yards. Okay, not bad. So you can kind of see on yours, your trailing edge. So more of a picker sweeper with it. You're not a digger with it. So you don't need a ton of bounce. So, I mean, I think a long time, did I put you in this a long time ago?
It was just a feel thing, honestly. I just like to pick it with the 60 and hit down on it with everything else.
Yeah. So, I would say that's a pretty good wedge for you.
Can I try that Z grind now? Because I'm
Yes,
always looking for more spin, because I always hit it in the rough.
You can hit my Z grind.
What's the two,
So, for the first time ever, Callaway put tungsten in their wedge. So, they're trying to optimize the CG so it can kind of help you to control flight and control distance, control forgiveness a little bit more. What I've noticed with it, at least in my mind, I actually hit it for whatever reason, loft to loft. I don't usually find too much difference, but when I hit this wedge, it goes a little bit farther. In the 60, it goes a little bit farther. In the 54, it goes a little bit farther than the 50. If I go this versus last year's MD5, doesn't make sense, but I think just because the CG is a little bit more optimized, I tend to hit it a little bit farther. Same effort, same everything, nothing changing there. They did lengthen the hosel a little bit to help be able to control flight as well. They changed the front leading edge a little bit. So it's a little bit of a pre-worn sole.
Yeah. Oh.
Kind of like that as well. This doesn't have it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
What does that do?
Just helps it a little bit get a little faster into the turf, but you still got a lot of bounce here. So it's going to play more bounce than this, but it still allows you to, you can kind of dig if you need to, and you can kind of.
Can I still flop it if need to?
You can still flop it if need be.
Well, which one should we go to?
Whichever.
Yeah, that definitely bounces. Ooh. Oh, did you see that spin?
Oh, it's got spin.
Normally it never spins out here. Normally I get those ones that like land right by the pin and then shoot 20 more yards. Oh.
Yeah, how about that?
You know, I can feel this
Yeah.
leading edge part.
Pre-worn leading edge. Yep. What does it do again? It just makes it a little bit better through the turf. So I believe your irons actually have it, but your wedge does not.
Oh, they do. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that. Learning today.
Learning. So like I said, the Callaway, they have two different finish options, lots of bounce options, lots of loft options.
That was just flat, but.
So the Z grind, they're very excited about.
I like it. I like this pre-worn thing. All right, let's see if we can. A little. Oh yeah, you can still do that. Mm-hmm.
I like how square it sits. It
do
looks
too.
like it sits, even though it's got a lot of bounce, it looks like it sits really low to the ground. So you made the comment that you like bounce in the rest of your wedges, just not in your 60.
Yeah, I normally do, but I'm honestly thinking of going back to a grind similar, kind of like this, because I can really just hit anything, but it's hard on wet surfaces with that bounce. It tends, when I get too diggy, it stays in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you got to be careful with this. This is a really good bounce and grind for you because you tend to slide it a little bit more. But in Northeast Ohio, where it tends to be a little softer.
Yeah, this would come in handy.
Correct.
I like this grind.
Correct.
Z grind, that's
What's your next loft?
54.
What do you have in your 54?
Something that I need more of.
You need more
What
of?
is that, 10? It's 10? It should be more bounce because I kind of hit it more full than, I never use this around the greens.
Okay, so, here, do this one instead. We're gonna trade you up. So with Callaway, they got, in a 54, I got a 54S and a 54W.
And the S is for more around the greens, kind of, or all around wedge. This is for more full shots.
Yeah, the S is kind of just the neutral sole. It's, just designed to be, like you said, kind of the all-around wedge. This W sole's got a little bit more bounce. It's
just
got
for more full shots.
Yeah, well, more full shots for someone that will tend to dig a little bit more. So if you look at the soles,
yeah, be much wider.
Much wider, but again, got that pre-worn leading edge.
This one doesn't have it.
It doesn't. But that one does.
And they feel soft too, which is always a good thing.
Good. So you hit mine in black, in the black plasma, and now you're hitting the satin.
I'd hit black all day.
Okay.
That wasn't struck well, but still worked.
So in optimizing your game, so we got to figure out, we want to, when we're talking about wedges, we got to talk about, the loft gaps, stuff like that. You had asked a question earlier about, what's
the ideal gapping of wedges?
What's the ideal gapping? So typically ideal gapping is probably 4 to 6 degrees. So in these stronger lofted sets, we got to think about where our pitching wedge is. We got to find out where that is.
44 degrees is what mine is.
That's what yours is. Some are now as strong as 41 degrees. So if we got 41 degree pitching wedge, man, we're going to have some wedges. It's just
a lot of wedges.
It's just part of wedges. But yeah, we got to talk about gapping. So if your pitching wedge is 44, then we can look at like 48, 49, 54. And then 60. If we're only carrying 3 wedges, that's probably a good kind of, or like I said, 48, somewhere on.
Yeah, that's kind of my setup now is 48, 54, 60.
Yeah, and if we need to tweak them, if we need to bend them a degree or 2, we can do that. We just got to make sure we're aware of, if I bend it stronger, I'm taking off bounce. If I'm bending it weaker, I'm adding bounce. I'm also changing offsets too. So be aware of that. If you're making those tweaks or want to make those tweaks, you got to make sure that you're aware of what you're doing to the golf club.
I mean, there's like no offset to this thing, really.
Correct.
So if we made it to a 56, that would make it even. Okay, I see it.
Correct. It almost have onset.
Oh, but these are nice. I like the weight of this. The weight feels real nice.
Yeah, I know the Callaway itself is very excited about this product. I know Titleist launched their SM9 this year. It's been extremely, extremely good. I know TaylorMade has their wedge as well. TaylorMade has their MG3 wedge that's been fantastic as well. Ping also launched Glide 4.0. I mean, it's been a really good year for wedges. Mizuno launched theirs at the end of last year, their T22. There's a lot of good choices out there. I know that I would say most people replace their wedges last. They should probably replace their wedges first. I mean, wedges, they're going to wear out faster than anything else in your bag. And I know the best players in the world get given their wedges so they can replace it a little bit more than the average person, but the average player on tour is replacing their lob wedge 4 times a year. They're replacing their 56 3 times, their gap wedge 2 times.
Rory's once a week.
Yeah, Rory's once a week. Tiger's once a tournament, although he's not playing a ton of tournaments. But yeah, I mean, because in this day and age, spin is so vitally important.
On hard, fast greens.
They're changing them a little bit more frequently than the average player that, oh, well, you know, I've had this, I really like this wedge, it's 15 years old. How do you spin the ball?
You don't.
Well, you don't if your wedge is 15 years old. Sorry. You've probably hit it enough where it's not spinning quite as much.
But these feel good. Like, even though that was an off-center hit, it still went the distance.
So the other thing you could do is you can go through the Callaway Customs. You can design different things. You can have different things put on there. You can do stampings. You can do colors.
Laser?
Do laser engraving. Yeah, one of the good things about this facility that we have is yes, we can do a wedge fitting in this scenario, which is great. We can go off grass as well. We also have a 27-hole short course, which if we get it down to, you know, maybe a wedge or two, I'm going to suggest you go out there, take your own golf balls, hit some different shots with it. We separate ourselves from any other facility because we have that option. So wedge fittings are definitely important to us. This concludes another episode of WGC Fits. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like us and favorite us. If you have more additional questions, please visit our website. Thanks again. Look forward to seeing you in the future.